today's music is pretty dead. If it's not popular, it's not pop, and you failed at your job. If you really want to pursue this, you have to trust your instincts and trust your gut. If you're good. And if you're not good, you shouldn't be doing it because this life sucks if you're not going to make it. I would probably just want my name removed from the credits. And that's a little bit arrogant probably to say. I feel like some people kind of just suck. And overrated people right now would have to be...
All right, welcome to the very first episode of my podcast. My first guest is a close friend of mine, one of my best friends, probably the most creative person, most talented in the creative arts that I know, Micah Thompson. Micah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Luke, for having me.
All right, so first one, I want to start with how you kind of got into music, because, I mean, you started off, you've always been creative, and I think you started off more with, like, Minecraft and drawing, and you did a little bit of piano, but I want to hear how, like, music, like, production and, like, creation kind of, like, became a thing.
Yeah, so the way that music, like, came into my life started probably when I was 4 years old. Although I do think listening to classical music as a baby like really impacted me. I started out playing the piano, just messing around on a piano at my actually maybe it was when I was 7. Messing around on a piano at a homeschool program that I was doing. And one girl came over and she taught me how to play the Narnia battle theme over just for fun, and I learned by ear. I just watched her play. I think she tried to point at some sheet music, but it didn't work.
Wait, how old were you?
7.
You were 7 and you learned that?
It
by
wasn't.
ear?
It wasn't super impressive. You know, it's just on the right hand. It's like
that's fair. Yeah.
bass notes and do 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 do. You know, it's really simple. But that was like, oh, I love that. And then I would listen to the battle theme like all the time. So I started getting into instrumental music. And Star Wars and Duel of the Fates was like downloaded on my iPod and on my dad's phone and stuff. And I got an iPod and I would just listen all the time to whatever they had downloaded, which was honestly pretty crap music. And so around the age of 10, I started getting my own like music opinions. And I think my parents have been shoving like 80s music down my throat for way too long. And like I call them dad songs, like the kind of folk-ish pop music that came out in like 2012. And that combined with like Christian, and we weren't allowed to listen to pop music. That was like a hard no. But I know my parents like, I don't know. My mom probably won't like me saying that. But they did, like, she didn't really care, but like they said that and I took it as law. And eventually, but I like already knew like Katy Perry and Justin Bieber. I think I heard the names briefly, but like Baby and Firework were both always like a huge part of my life. Like I remember seeing them on the playground at school in 2nd grade, and like going on the monkey bars and just riffing around and like learning runs and stuff and just singing like my heart out and like not being very apologetic about it was like a big thing back when I was young. But I got super embarrassed when I got older to sing, so I just shut myself up for like 6 or 7 years, and finally I got to high school and I really had developed my own tastes. I got into Adele and Sia, and then finally like Katy Perry sophomore year, and just I started listening to all these songs and being like, oh my gosh, like what makes this such a good song? Why does this sound so good to me? Why do I love the melody? Why do I love the sound of it, like the beat and everything? So I started dissecting songs. I started I just started like thinking from a songwriter's perspective and from a producer's perspective.
Yeah.
And I would listen to instrumentals, and that was really inspiring to me. And one day I just had this gut feeling that like I was going to go into music. And at that point in my life, I had been pursuing film, and I wanted to be a film director.
Was this high school?
High school. Yeah.
That was high school, yeah.
Yeah, high school. I always kind of had the idea that someday I'd do music, like maybe film scoring or something like that. But I finally figured out that that was something I really wanted to do. So I secretly started singing by myself, which was horrible. At this point in my life, I was like humming along to songs, but the humming was like basically singing at this point. I was like, with my mouth almost open.
Yeah.
And I also, at this point in my life, figured out I had perfect pitch. So I had a piano teacher that told me I had perfect pitch, and I was like, Okay, I don't know if I know what that means, but
Yeah.
okay.
And do you wanna explain perfect pitch? Because I feel like a lot of people get perfect pitch wrong, um, and not really people don't really know what it is. I feel like.
Yeah. So perfect pitch basically means that you can hear a note or hear a sound, and a note registers in your brain. You can remember pitch essentially.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily correlate to the names of the notes unless you know the names of the notes.
Yeah.
So there are people out there with perfect pitch who have no idea what the names of all the notes are because they didn't do piano class or
Hmm.
theory or anything or play an instrument. So there's a lot of people that have that. But I figured out the names of the notes as I started to play piano. My parents tried piano lessons with me for a little bit. Didn't work out because I didn't practice. And I hated learning to read regular English, and then reading music was like a whole nother foreign language that
Yeah.
still kind of scares me. Um, anyway, so I figured out I had perfect pitch, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna like try to write songs. And at that point, a huge inspiration in my life had become Max Martin. He's a Swedish pop producer and songwriter who has really shaped heavily the landscape of pop music today,
Hmm.
and especially the last 20 years. And I noticed, I'm like, oh, I love this song. Who produced it? And I started looking it up. And then I saw, oh, his name was on these credits of all these songs that I loved. And then I just looked up Max Martin songs. I'm like, oh my gosh, he is such a big part of my childhood. Like these songs, I see a correlation between what's a good song and what he has made.
Hmm.
And then I started looking. Now I kind of know all the other producers too. Benny Blanco and Johann Shellback and Ilya and all these people who are just really talented.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think there's any correlation besides, let's say, you're like, oh, Max Martin created this. This is also something I like. There's some kind of correlation there. When you were kind of studying music, do you think you found something, like a couple things specifically that related to a song that you like, just besides like Max Martin wrote it?
like, oh, obviously, like those are the building blocks. Like,
Yeah.
what I love about him is that I feel like we have very similar tastes in how we write songs and the building blocks. So it's always got to have like a good beat, and that has to do with the mix, but it also has to do with the production and understanding where the vocal fits into the pocket.
Hmm.
And then most like above all, most importantly, I love a good melody. Like a good melody is just the best, and it's the thing that I do the best, and it's like what I admire the most in songwriting because it's really difficult, in my opinion, to find
Yeah.
the perfect melody for a song that will catch an ear, but also I don't like something that catches the ear but isn't fun to listen to. Like there's songs now that do that. I don't really like if it's annoying and it's not good.
Yeah.
That's an issue in
Yeah.
my opinion.
What would be something that like catches the ear, but it's not fun to listen to?
Um, Let me see. Maybe like Doja Cat's what's it called? Paint the Town Red.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that will get in
Yeah.
my head, but like
Oh yeah.
the actual hook isn't really enjoyable to listen to. I won't try to put it on. Or another Doja Cat song. Oh, what's it called? It's something with SZA on it, and it's just
Oh
like
yeah.
um I don't know, it feels like a throwaway. I'm like, how did that become like such a big song? You know?
Yeah.
It disappoints me when songs get up there that are just so like boring. It's like, how did that take over the charts for like months on end? So.
Hmm. Yeah. So you think something that like gets your like can get in your stuck in your head, but it's not like good stuck in your head. It's like bad stuck in your head.
Yeah, well, like I love something. I love like, if it's a melody and it just fulfills you, right? Sometimes it needs a resolution, sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes you end on a certain chord that lets the next part of the song resolve.
Yeah.
But you want it to flow and feel like it's telling a story. In my opinion, you want to like watch the melody do its thing. Like it just needs to take you places. And that's what I love in a chorus. Is a big soaring chorus that you're like, I've been waiting for this. This needs to deliver, and it does. And if a song doesn't deliver for me, that is where I get let down. And I think everyone does. That's pretty like normal and relatable. But
Yeah. Do you think do you think it has to have like a soaring feeling though? Because I feel like there's some
Right.
songs
No.
maybe you've written that don't really do that though.
Yeah, you're right. Right now I'm really into writing. I'm doing a pop record right now, so I love a good soaring chorus, and I feel like that's really fun for me currently.
Hmm.
But yeah, the song needs to do what it's supposed to do, is what I should have said.
Yeah.
Um, if the song is supposed to take you into this vulnerable drop chorus after a big pre that's making you feel like you're going somewhere, and then it drops off, and that actually creates a lot of dynamics and emotion.
Hmm.
So that can be really cool too. But a I just it's really hard to explain in words.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the melody just has to. There's a lot of uncreative melodies, and I think pop gets a really bad reputation because it already um, has a bad reputation for lyrics. Everyone knows you're not going to pop music for lyrics, right?
Hmm.
And then if the melodies aren't delivering, it's like, well, then what's the point? What's the point of pop? And so there's all this mid-tier pop, and if it's not popular, it's not pop, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And there are some things that aren't pop that are popular, but it's like, if the goal was to make something that catches your ear and it doesn't, then you failed at your job.
Do you have any advice for like, let's say somebody was like trying to start out making something that's like pop and like actually popular? Is there anything you've learned that you think help like would make it better, just like as you've been making more music, something that would make it more catchy, more popular, more kind of what you were describing?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of elements to that. It's hard to explain completely in words,
Yeah.
because it just comes really naturally.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna make something that is supposed to grab some people's attention, I've seen so much more music focus on kind of just being like, I don't know. I feel like today's music is pretty dead, and I feel like if you want to stand out, you want to make something that isn't dead, and don't be afraid of it not sounding perfect, because if it doesn't sound perfect, it creates like exciting. I don't know, how do I say that? If it's not perfect, it actually draws attention, and I think sometimes the vibes are like born in imperfect songs. You want to create something with character, more importantly. And I think some great examples of that is like Lady Gaga. Her music is not what you'd consider like pristine pop music that you would see, um, especially back when it came out. It was really, really different.
Yeah.
Um, but she made something that had a bunch of character in it. Like if you heard one of her songs, you knew it was one of her songs just from the production style. Very not quite gritty, but like almost raunchy. Like it's just you want to yeah, that sounds bad. Um, you want to make something that like will grab attention. So sometimes if you've got a synth sound that sounds a little dated or a little bit out of place, you want to make sure the focus is on the focal point at all times, especially if you're producing.
Yeah.
But if you want like on writing, it's a whole other ball game. You want to I personally start with melody. I always start with melody. Very rarely, if ever, maybe once or twice in my life, have I done lyrics first. Um, which may be a pitfall of mine because lyrics are not my strong suit. But there's a lot of ways to kind of get a good result out of your melody.
Hmm.
You can start with a track that you've already created or that someone else has created that you really like, and then write a melody over that and then put it on your own production.
Yeah.
Um, or you can just create something that speaks to you. And I think that's difficult because I don't trust everyone's taste. I feel like some people kind of just suck, and that's just hard to get by.
Yeah.
Um, but in general, if you really want to pursue this, you have to trust your instincts and trust your gut. If you're good. And if you're not good, you shouldn't be doing it because this life sucks if you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Like everyone I've talked to in music has said, if you don't know if you want to do this, don't do this. Only the people who know what they're getting into and like if you're going to do anything else in your life, sorry, let me restart that. If you could see yourself doing anything else, do that because that will that's a much higher chance of money. You're going to have
Yeah.
a terrible life just like scraping by. You have to really love it and know that you couldn't do anything else ever to do it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So, I mean, you know you want to do this, but is there a point where because you have pretty high aspirations for like where you want to get to in music. But do you think you would be fine working at let's say a job that makes like enough for you to like provide for your family, but it's not like at the highest level? Let's say you were like producing for like maybe a lower producer for, I don't know, some artist, but you still got paid enough to like provide for your family. Do you think you would stick with music?
Would that be the end goal?
Uh,
Is that what I have for the rest of my life?
Sure. Like that is like you've got there. Maybe you can like move up a little bit in music, but not too much. Do you think you would switch?
It's a good question. I don't know. The only reason is because I've got a lot of other plans besides music in my life. Creatively, this is not the end of the road. This is very much the beginning of the road for me.
Mm.
And I want to use music as a means to fund the rest of it. So,
Yeah.
if that's not going to happen, then maybe I move to something else that will ultimately result in me making music again.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I think if I got to a place where I was making enough to provide, like I would stick with it because I love it. I really love it. And even if I didn't and I started something else, it would have to be creative, and music would stay as a hobby on the side.
Yeah.
Because that's just, I don't think I could go without doing it. Because I love it so much, and I don't want to be like, oh, I'm too greedy. I can't. I need to make a lot of money. Otherwise, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like that's really stupid. I wouldn't ever. Yeah, I love it too much, but
For sure.
ultimately, yeah, I just want to do something creative.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you think there's any artists out there who are like way overrated right now? Anybody that like that's getting a lot of attention, but like you're like they don't deserve this, or they're doing something to like get a lot of fans, but like it's not like in an honest like your music's actually good.
Yeah, let me think. I definitely. I don't want to like point fingers because then you just make enemies, right? Not that I'm even close to that level. But it could come back to bite me. I think some really overrated people right now would have to be like, I think new Kanye West is really overrated.
Really?
I think he used to be really good, but him like as a person, I think he's in such a pitfall that he's not making anything productive.
Yeah.
I love the new Billie Eilish album. I think she's not overrated. She's incredible, and
Yeah.
I just had to say that because oh my gosh, it was incredible.
Yeah.
It's really rare to come across like amazing music in 2024. But I did with that. But I would say probably Lizzo is another person who's heavily overrated. I think she's maybe had one honestly good-ish song. I think Truth Hurts is like okay. That's her kind of debut.
Yeah.
And everything after that has just been like kind of a copy play on Dua Lipa. And like I don't know. She just like after the controversy with that, it's like, is she worth it? You know, like I think they had Max Martin help her on a hook on one of her songs because it wasn't good enough. But like nothing she's put out has really intrigued me in years. Doja Cat, I think she actually is a decent rapper. But I like her pop stuff more, and I don't understand why she's as big as she is. I feel like there's someone I'm missing, and I just can't think of them right now. And
Yeah.
later on in the interview, if it comes to my brain, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
shout it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like generally the music industry is in a bit of a rut right now. We're in a year where a lot of stuff is coming out.
Yeah.
A lot of good music-ish is coming out. So hypothetically, we should have a really good year.
Yeah.
But it's just a quantity year, and we don't know about quality yet. I'd say Billie Eilish already has Album of the Year.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. I loved Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande. That was like a very cohesive record.
Yeah.
But nothing stood out to me like as actual like pop hits as Billie Eilish's did.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift released a record that is not my favorite. It's I love her, and I don't want to like diss because she's amazing. But that record, I knew what I was getting into though. I knew it wasn't gonna be like 1989. That's like my favorite album of all time. That and Teenage Dream by Katy Perry are like my top two. But this year's been interesting for sure.
Yeah. Do you think music is making like a comeback to like the 2010s pop? Because like I feel like politics is kind of maybe a similar way. Because I feel like we had more of a um, like a right leaning earlier like 2010s, and then I feel like
When left-leaning politics came in,
more
it got
left
worse.
leaning around like 2018, 2019 up to like maybe like last year, year before last year, kind of was like more left leaning, like the population, and then feels like we're swinging right. Do you think music's kind of this similar like that right now?
Well, the music industry, the people in the industry, I think are pretty um, left-leaning,
Well, yeah, no,
but
I'm talking about like in
it
terms
has to
of
do with politics.
like
I think it
pop
has to do with
and
economics.
yeah.
Um, and I think actually it didn't have as much to do with politics because I see like, yeah, you could argue that um, we had left-wing politics right up all the way up until I would say I don't know Luke about that. I'd saying that we had right-wing politics until
Yeah,
2019
maybe
because
not
Obama
right.
was
That's fair.
until 2016. Do you mind if I actually get some water really quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I think I want to pivot a little bit towards
I could have said it is economic though. It's totally driven by recession. I wanted
yeah,
to say
yeah,
that.
yeah, probably. I kind of want to pivot a little bit towards kind of how your faith has impacted music. Do you so what was your has there been any sort of impact that your faith, your belief in God has um, had on like how you approach the music industry?
Yes, it definitely has. I think that's a big answer. I think it's really nuanced. Because it could be a sensitive topic on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think all of my talent, everything that I have been given, is not me. It's God.
Mm-hmm.
The way I like to see writing songs and producing things is there's like a portal, right, to this unseen realm in which all creative things exist. Everything that we could make, possibly, he's already thought of and he's already created. He is the ultimate creator. He's made everything in this world.
Yeah.
And he's made us and given us the ability, like we're in his image, right? We can do some of the things he's done in smaller capacities. And I think that's some of the beauty of like the world is that we can create just like he did, not in the same way, right? We can't make something from nothing. Um, but we can use what he's given us here to make things. And so I see writing a song as reaching across through this portal and pulling through a good idea.
Huh.
And sometimes you can't get through. Um, and I like the upside down is like where like how I see it. But when you do, it's like you struck lightning, right? You were given something that he can decide when I get a good idea. And he could take away everything I have creatively, and it would probably wreck my life, um, to be honest. But it's that I'm just thankful every day for one that I'm alive because I had a lot of complications with birth. I should have been dead, pretty much. And from a young age, I've always thought about how God chose me as a possibility. There's all these possibilities and characteristics within DNA that you could be a different human being. And out of all those like possibilities, I was chosen to exist on this earth, which is really I feel like it's a gift and a privilege. All that to say, it's impacted my making of music as I think about him and want to honor him in everything I do. And so when I'm going into the industry, I don't want to go into Christian music because I feel like that's taking advantage of the people who who can't really like expand their horizons to pop and stuff because I know for a lot of people that's damaging, right? That'll make you that can affect your thought life and all that stuff. So a lot of Christians will turn to Christian music as an alternative, and I feel like people getting super loaded off of religion feels wrong personally.
Mm.
No hate to Christian artists; they're great, they're cool, but that's just not what I want to do. I want to go to the places where there's dark darkness and be the light there.
Mm.
I want to be writing on the sessions with the people who never hear about God and who probably hear about Satanism and all that stuff in Hollywood and live lives that are just very me focused, like only fulfilling themselves, and are probably under a lot of pressure, like spiritual warfare. And so I'd like to be in those spaces and then develop relationships with those people and hopefully bring God wherever I can. And that's just what I want to do.
Yeah. So let's say, so I think your probably strongest suit, correct me if I'm wrong, is like music, like writing and producing. So let's say you were to write and produce for an artist who doesn't really have like the values you have. Have you thought about like how you would like navigate that?
Yeah. I would basically, I wouldn't want to be involved in lyrics, is kind of where I would want to draw the line. I'm not going to write something that I don't believe in. But I will write a good melody, and I will try to be as helpful as I can to what they want. But I will have boundaries, and that's kind of where I'm going to leave it. And they can put out the song, and I hope it's a smash hit for them, and I hope that that it works out. But if they want to call me back and use me for more songs, and then one day it's like, why don't you ever want to do that? Or why are you so fun to work with? Or like not that I'm like anything special, right? But like I want to be someone who can be reliable and helpful and always kind and always in a good mood, and I want to be different than the rest of what they're exposed to. So in theory, that's a rough one because I know it can have an impact on other people.
Yeah.
Listening to those types of songs that aren't what I believe in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where I'm gonna have to draw the line, is that I won't do lyrics.
Yeah. Do you think you'll have any songs where like, maybe if you write like a melody and you produce for like a certain artist, and then they write lyrics for something that like, let's say they write a song that is like too far. Like let's say it's something you like extremely disagree with. You think it shouldn't be put out. It's maybe damaging the lyrics, like could be harmful to people. Do you think you would stop working with them, or do you think you would just go back to that same artist and like maybe see, oh, I'm just like not responsible for the lyrics?
That's really tough. I would say for me personally, I think that, oh my gosh, something else entered my brain just now.
Go ahead, say it.
Oh, it's just that Taylor Swift was a giant compilation of her saying, I think for me personally, in all the interviews, and she did it for like 10 years, and then she tried to stop, and I did it, and I was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, personally, I would just have to, I think I would do everything in my power to make sure the song doesn't get put out.
Yeah.
And if that would cross too many boundaries for me, then I would probably just want my name removed from the credits. And they could finish it by themselves, and I would stop working on that particular song. I wouldn't close the door to that artist unless it was something really serious that I just like could not ever deal with. But if I have an issue that's really, really binding on a certain thing, then I will definitely not compromise that.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any any like legal agreement that you can like make, like, oh, if I produce this song and like write it, then you have to like tell me what the song's gonna be about first before. I wonder if you can do that, where you can say, oh, I have to know what the lyrics are gonna be about before I produce and write it. Because would that be hard to do? Because maybe they write this lyrics after the melody and
that's what would work with. That was what happened with me, is we would write the melody first. Yeah, that would be really difficult. I don't think that would be possible, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, but that's a good idea. I don't know. It's gonna be something really difficult to navigate, but I think I can deal with it. But it's gonna be like, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, because I want to be in the room writing with the artist. I personally, I don't mind if they bring something in to work on, and sometimes that does fuel things. But personally, I would just want to start something fresh with them in the studio.
Yeah.
Because I trust me personally. I keep saying personally. I trust me,
Yeah.
and and that's a little bit arrogant probably to say, but I don't trust everybody. And if someone brings something in, worst comes to worst, I'm like, no, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Or here, maybe we do this, and you redirect until you get to something that's good.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Um, I mean, you were talking about earlier about how you kind of want to be a light in the secular, more like pop area. Do you have any? Have you thought about different ways specifically you can do that, or you're just kind of like, oh, I want to just present my character out there, and that will be the light, or do you think you'll have like a
Well,
specific?
no, definitely not just my being a nice person. um, I would, I'd love to form relationships with these people,
Yeah.
and then I, um, from there, I would want to spread the word. Like honestly, I would love to have real deep conversations with these people,
Mhm.
um, and hopefully make a change for the better in the industry. And I would love to make music, personally, with like other artists that is uplifting, that isn't secular and isn't or like that's secular, like stuff that everyone can enjoy, but not stuff that hurts um, culture and hurts kids and hurts people. I
Mhm.
want to make music that creates really positive messaging.
Yeah.
Um, and I think if we have that on top of the charts, that will do a lot of good for the world.
Mhm.
Which I don't think I'm even close to a chart topper. As it, but
You never know.
if I could make it, that's the goal. If I could make it, I would love to make music that is edifying. And if I'm not making music that's edifying, I'd love to be a witness to those people who aren't making music that are making music that is really not edifying. And I'd like to help change them, which is
Yeah.
quite an uphill battle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's Hollywood, so
Yeah, but
is
there's not enough people like that out there. And I
yeah.
think um, it's a really untouched area.
It's like the untouched tribes.
Yeah, it's just like,
just Hollywood
in the middle of the. Yeah, I know. It's like it's almost like got an anti-Christian air about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And I
agree.
think, but it's interesting. I think that like once you get to a point where you're just like an absolute low life, doing all of the worst things and running the opposite direction, that will impact the quality of what you're making. I
Mhm.
really think there's so many people who just lose themselves. They get to the top and then they lose themselves and they never make something that's honest and good again. I think that just happens.
Yeah. Brett, how are we doing on time? When did we start? Did we start at it's 2:45. Did we start at Is there any
What does the thing say?
what,
How long has it been?
is there anything on there that says you want to swipe with 3 fingers to the side? See what time we're on? Yeah, do you know what when did we start? Did we start at 2:15 or 1:15?
Oh, we started at 2:15.
2:15. So it's only been 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. No, we're chilling. Um that okay, so do you think you would like ever put out just straight Christian music?
No, I don't like that label. I would never put out something that's just gonna get sent to Christian radio. Because then it's just sent to Christian radio. And I would want to make something like in my music. I'm making pop, but God shows up in a few of my songs actually.
Mhm.
Because if He's in your life, He's going to show up in what you make. And I don't think there's a reason to like label it and put it on a certain radio station that's gonna limit it from the population just because. And I get niching and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
for me, I just like that's just not really what I want. I feel like, yeah, making something strictly about God is really limiting
Mhm.
because I think there's so much more that can edify Him in life to write about.
Yeah.
So if I'm writing about my life and He's in my life, then He's gonna be in the music.
Mhm.
One of the songs that is going to be on something, one of my upcoming releases, is literally just a prayer. The entire song's a prayer. And the whole song, I won't really. It's like I'm talking, to God, but it doesn't sound like I'm necessarily talking to, like, it's not like a very strict prayer. It's just like a
Mm-hmm.
me pouring out my feelings. And then at the end I say, "Oh Lord, please help me."
Yeah.
And that's the only reference, but it's there. And I like the Narnia analogy. Narnia has always been a big part of my life. But the way that C.S. Lewis wrote that in a way that the messaging was very Christian, um, but it wasn't so faith centered that it turned off the general population. It's become a huge hit movie franchise, and I feel like everyone generally knows the story of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and that's basically, in a nutshell, God's story with Israel and his people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you ever think? So, I mean, with certain people, they have like when they're like kind of in their work, they can kind of see God working through it, or they kind of. I was just at Brett and I were at not small group, home group yesterday, and one of the things was experiencing God and having an interaction with God through just silence and being still. Do you think you ever have that? Like, have you ever had that where you're like maybe like in the zone, kind of in a flow state with music, where you've ever had like an experience with God?
Yes, I definitely feel like I feel his presence. Obviously, for me, it's not words while I'm writing and like making things. For me, it's always making something. Um, but with music, I definitely get these moments where it's like everything starts coming together, and I'm like, oh my gosh, God, thank you so much. Like, wow, you really didn't have to do this. Like, you just made this amazing song. Like, you just like used me to make this thing, and it's like, it's just like I'm vomiting it out, and it's like all in his, it's all him, it's all his thought process. And I mean, the way that it's designed, like songs, I just think the way that we're designed as humans are incredible. That we can pick up signals and they become melodic and they like create feelings. And I just think that's incredible that that's a whole part of our sensory. Um, and that he gives me ways to create those feelings and to satisfy that like sensory,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That does make sense. Do you think you'll ever go more into like so one of your songs coming up is more of a prayer, but it's you were talking about how it could kind of be seen as not a prayer because it's kind of just talking about your feelings. Do you think you'll ever go more into like referencing God more, but keeping it in the pop genre?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would. I don't see why that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like it's gonna have to be a natural progression, though. It couldn't necessarily um, be like a conscious choice for me to do that. And I don't think I would ever want to make it a conscious choice. I would feel like if I feel comfortable to do it, I will do it, and it'll just be natural. It won't be like I've made it, so now I'm gonna put more God in my music. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like what's going on in my life, and so I'll reevaluate when I get to that record or whenever that is. But he makes an appearance on a decent amount of my stuff, and then I don't make explicit music. I wouldn't mind writing an explicit song for some other artist if that's what they do. Fine, I'm not gonna write the lyrics for that. I don't think lyrics are my strong suit, so I don't see that as a loss. But for me, I don't write explicit music. There are songs that I write that are angry and are technically talking about things that are sin. And I don't mind that because I feel like to be a human is to be raw. And if you felt those emotions in the moment, maybe they weren't right and they weren't good. But if that's how you feel, people want to hear that through your music.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like that can coexist with faith.
Yeah, I think that's pretty similar to like the Psalms of David. In the Old Testament, it's a lot of like being angry at God, and coincidentally, it's like songs too. So it's pretty similar. And I don't think it's that different. I mean, it's not a sin because like it's in the Bible, so it's like encouraging us to like express our anger, our frustration, or our questions to God. So I think that's definitely something that that could and should go in music. Um, but yeah, David's an interesting character because he also just does crappy stuff throughout. Like he rapes this woman, and then murders her husband, and then God calls him, oh, he's a man after my own heart. But I think that really emphasizes how like depraved we are as humans. Any sin separates us from God. So any of it, like somebody that bad in our eyes, isn't really that different to God. So that different than us in God's eyes. If he's actually trying to follow God, which is, I mean, it's an interesting point. But do you think you see? Have you ever looked at David and seen like any like parallels between you and him not in terms of like raping and killing and stuff, but
Yeah, hopefully not. Um, I I feel like he's always been one of my favorite characters in the Bible, but I've never necessarily. That sounds like the most dumb answer in the world. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like he's one of my favorite characters. But I don't necessarily see myself in him. I feel like just being alone and writing down um my thoughts. I feel like I have a very natural um prayer flow with God. Like it doesn't matter when or where, especially if I'm alone. I just talk and I ramble and I tell him things. And I feel like I do relate to David in that way with the Psalms and stuff like that, and that we both write, and I don't know.
yeah,
That's kind of where it probably ends, but
yeah.
he's cool.
Do you think your prayer life has been like helped by like making music at all, or do you think it's been like pretty consistent from like not making music to making music?
I think it actually has been helped by making music because sometimes I'll just sing prayers
Mm.
while I'm walking. Like I live at my grandparents' farm, so if I'm walking around a field or if I'm just alone, it's how it is. And I think that's how that song helped me actually started was I was just singing a prayer.
Hmm.
And I was like I really like that, and I pulled out my phone and recorded it, and it ended up being a song that I really love. It's not going to be on my upcoming album. It's going to be the thing
Oh
after that.
wait, so you were actually praying, and then that's the song. I've already heard this song, right?
Yes, you have.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was at the piano at the music department, and I was like, "Please help me. I'm struggling." And that it just came out, and it was like, "Oh my gosh." Yeah, it was just like, "Wow." Um and yeah, I just love that song, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I thought it was kind of like you were writing a song and then you kind of wanted to make it a prayer, but it was a prayer first, right?
Yeah, it
And
was.
then it became uh, a song afterwards. Um, that's interesting because I'm like a very, you know this. I'm not very musically talented at all. So like praying a song is like praying a song,
Pretty much speaking in tongues.
singing a prayer. Sure. Yeah,
I'm joking.
singing.
It's a whole foreign language, isn't it, Luke?
Yeah, no, I don't know what music is, honestly. Um, yeah, singing a prayer never really came. Did you used to do that before, or was this like something recently you started doing?
Well, that song was written a year ago, so.
Well, no,
So it
no,
wasn't even
I mean like,
but yeah, before writing music, well, I didn't really sing at all before writing music. That came together at the same time. When I was like, oh, I might want to start being a songwriter. So, um, I started writing ideas, but I also started trying to practice singing at the same time. That's when my brother caught me in the car and took a stupid video and sent it to all my friends and family, and then I started singing for reals, for realsies. But I didn't sing prayers and make prayers as songs like that. Flow never was a part of my life
Mhm.
until I started writing music.
But like once you did start writing music, not making those prayers into songs, but like singing prayers, is that something you like do not fairly regularly, but like every once in a while?
Yeah, definitely. If I'm ever alone,
Mhm.
that that seems to be the case. Especially if I'm like in nature, like if I'm in the backyard at my house. Senior year, that was definitely something that would happen. Or I like I said at the farm, or just walking between dorm and class. Like I just, yeah, it's kind of part of how I pray.
Huh. Do you think does it feel, not does it feel different, but do you think it has any difference from like praying in song versus just praying normally to you?
Um, no, not really. I think sometimes if I'm singing, like I tend to, not really. No, I was gonna say I try to rhyme, but not really. Like I just don't even think about that really, unless something just pops in like and works out. But
Yeah. Let's see. Do I have any other questions? Oh, okay. Let's just go a little bit back into music, specifically. Is there anything like recently you've been like learning about music? Like something you've like learned maybe technically, or just like maybe an epiphany you had recently that like kind of relates to music?
yeah, one of my most recent ones is like I said, making something that has character is so much more important than making something that is really clean, um, and really like sellable. I would say you want to make something that has character, but more importantly, lately, just like as a very like niche thing, I've learned about one note harmonies. Um, I always have loved one note melodies, but if the melody's moving, generally, and I've been learning how to produce power vocals and stuff like that. You know, gangs in the back. I saw a video of Dr. Luke talking about how for Teenage Dream they had like a large amount of the studio staff in the back of the room all singing the chorus together, and then they made that into the gang vocals on Teenage Dream. So doing those, and then doing one note harmonies, and then doing panned vocals on the side. Um, it just keeps flowing. Like my knowledge of sidechain compression and auto filters all happened about 6 months to a year ago between there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then establishing a really good beat and mixing. That's been a new journey for me too because I've never learned to mix. Um, but a new epiphany.
Do you ever so I've seen this quite a bit. So like there's like a video of Charlie Puth taking like a mug and a spoon, and he like taps it and uses that as a sound and kind of pitches that for a song. And then there was I was watching a video, I think it was with Phineas and Billie Eilish, and it was they used like one of her I guess I know you do this. You'll use like your like random vocals and like use that as like a backtrack thing, not use it as a vocal. But do you ever use like just other random sounds as like elements of production at all?
Yeah, the most recent example that I did that was on a song that I put out called "Killer Be Killed." At the beginning of the verse, basically I was writing the verse and it was bum bum ba bum bum ba bum bum, and it was pretty basic ba bum bum, you know. And then it was like just a kick beat and maybe a bass, and I was doing my verses. I never would have thought, you know that thing. And then my mom walked into the room. It was actually last summer. Maybe no, maybe I was back for like fall or no, it was summer. My mom walked in the room with her water. It was late at night, and it had all this shaking ice in her water. And I was like, "Mom, give me that right now." And please. And she's like, "With the ice, you don't want any more water in it?" Because she had drank all the water. And I was like, "No, just the ice." And I just started shaking it, you know, and this sound of the shaking of the ice made it into the song. And I wish I could just pull out a clip and play it for you, but
Oh,
it's
we should have.
so
I should have
natural.
had that. That would have been so good.
It would have been so
Next
awesome.
time I have like a music artist or something like that,
I
somebody
mean, I
who
could
has
play you the
music.
beginning of the song if it's in there. It sounds like
Is it at the beginning of the song? Shoot, my phone's recording.
my phone's right here.
Yeah, you just grab your phone.
I don't know where it is. I've been hearing it vibrate I think, this whole time, and I wanted
There
to
you
turn it off. I hope that's not messed up anything.
No, you'll be fine.
All right, let me. Oh, I actually have really bad
But
sight.
it's at the beginning of Kill or Be Killed?
Yeah, I actually might have the demo here that might have it more prominently.
Really? Let's hear it. But you kind of, Mikey, you kind of like stopped making music. Like, you kind of took a little bit of a break after your first 3 songs. After you did Paradise, Kill or Be Killed, and Crying on the Floor.
Yeah.
You have those 3 out. But you kind of took a little bit of a break. Did you, is there like a reason why you like slowed down a little bit?
Yeah, pretty simply, it's just because I didn't have time and I had written so many songs. I've written probably 40 songs already ish that I'm going to eventually come back to. Like probably 50 total. But I've got more than an album worth of really good songs that I want to put out. And I was like, okay, I've written these songs, but I wasn't good enough at production back in the day, so I had a co-producer, and I would just kind of tell him exactly what I wanted. Shout out to Jordan.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing it all myself, and so I wanted to wait. I knew I was getting a studio set up at home after school was out, and then I also knew what's the point of putting out music to no audience. So I needed to focus on my social media game. So that's what I did during the second half of the last semester of school. And that's what I'm going to be doing over the summer. I'm going to be doing that at the same time as working on my album. But I've got at least enough songs for an album and an EP right now. And I've actually already started on the second and third album. And then I accidentally wrote a song in one take on my voice memo, an entire song, one long take for the fourth album that I...
That's great.
It was like, I'm doing like, later on in my career, I'm doing like an old Hollywood style. Like, I want to record it with vintage tube mics and like really old gear. And I want to do this. It's going to be so fun. But I saw this picture of like a Disney watercolor painting that was used as a backdrop for the animation of one of their movies on TikTok at one night at like 2 a.m, and I saw it and I was like, I want to write a song that feels like that. So I pulled out my phone and I just sang an entire like old timey sounding song out on my phone. And it was like, I think it was like 2.5 minutes, so it's probably like an intro track for an album. But just the lyrics and everything, it just flowed, and it was like, wow, there it is, whole song just done.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's cool.
crazy.
Let's hear the Kill or Be Killed.
Oh, I wanted to, but do you know the Wi-Fi password? Because nothing's downloading.
Oh,
My files.
It's not downloaded.
Yeah.
Dang it! If it was, don't you have it on like Amazon Music? You can just like pull up the actual song.
I have one bar.
Oh, you don't have your song downloaded, Micah, on your phone?
I don't think I have anything downloaded on Amazon. What?
Oh, Brett has the
Oh, you
Wi-Fi.
have the Wi-Fi. Do you want to just pull it up?
No, Brett.
Oh, you
yeah,
can just
you
share
have
it?
to try to type it in first, and then he'll share it with you.
What's the Wi-Fi again? Thanks, Brett.
How do you have the Wi-Fi? Oh,
Thank you, Brett.
nice. Good job, Brett. MVP.
Alright. Let's see here. It was
Yeah.
called... I think I just remembered. Okay, we're going to do
Brett.
Kill or Be Killed.
Brett, how are we doing over there? How have the cuts been so far?
Pretty good. I think there were a couple times where I like cut when I didn't need to.
Yeah. Was it when I was saying, yeah.
There were a couple times like that, and there were a couple times where I was thinking like, okay, you were laughing a little longer than usual. I should have probably cut to that because I've been focused on Micah. So
Yeah.
I will let you be the judge.
Yeah, I'll work with that.
Should I play it?
Yeah,
You'll really hear it mostly at the beginning. It's like a... But it sounds like it's like almost like a rattlesnake rattler. You'll hear. It's the ice.
That was ice?
And it's... Yeah, and it continues throughout the whole verse.
Really?
Did you get that?
I didn't know that was ice.
And that's the original iPhone recording. Actually, no, I used my computer speakers on my MacBook as the recording, and I just shook a thing of ice. Didn't re-record it. It's the same one from the demo. We just put it into the real
Really?
song.
That
Yeah.
doesn't sound like ice. That's really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, I pitched up a little bit, but it's ice cubes just rolling
Yeah.
around in a little cup. So that was
No,
really fun.
that's great. Is that the only one you've done with like just like external like sounds you've put into production?
Um, kind of. I'd say with New Blood, I don't know if it's gonna be there forever. Oh, that song's not out.
I can bleep it if you
No,
want.
it's okay.
If
You
you
can.
want to.
I think it's okay for people to know the name of one of my
Okay.
songs. One of my favorites, by the way.
Oh,
Probably.
it's my favorite. It's
probably
so
a
good.
single.
It's so great.
Oh, can't wait. For the drums, I didn't feel like for some of the drum fills, like between the main beats, um, it like it goes ba 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 boom ba bum bum ba bum, and so between that the ba 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 ba, I think I just tapped on my computer, right, that with my finger, and then like EQ'd it and changed the sound on it. So
Huh.
that's one of them. I can't remember all of them, but I do it sometimes,
Yeah.
or sometimes I record a sound and I'm just like, oh, I'll keep that for later.
Yeah.
But
Do you want to work more with like external sounds, or do you think like
definitely.
just the built-in is better?
Oh, you mean like like instruments?
Well, yeah, just like the built-in. Let's say with
Logic?
Logic, like just the built-in like sounds you can use in Logic. Do you think
No,
that's
they're not good enough. I want to buy a bunch of plugins, but I can't because I'm broke.
college? Woo!
Yeah, college. But I really like what Phineas said. He says you want to limit yourself, and it's good when you're limited because you can be really creative when you're limited.
Mhm.
And so that's what taught me. Now I actually have a home studio. And up until this point, I had no way of doing most of this stuff. So I had to be really creative with getting to make anything over the last year. So, like, I would, instead of using a MIDI keyboard to input all of my ideas and synths and all that, I would have to individually with my mouse, my little trackpad, put in each note of every single thing. For a year, I've did that, and I only used headphones. I didn't have any speakers to check my mixes or anything like that.
That's terrible.
Absolutely awful. It's
That's like honestly that reminds me of you building uh Disneyland brick by brick.
right. Everyone else uses World Edit, and I don't.
Yeah.
So that was like, yeah, there's limiting, but it's been helpful. And so with the Logic sounds, it's like how much can I manipulate those to sound like other things, to be what I want them to be,
Mhm.
before they get repetitive. And I just don't think the quality is very high on some of them. Some of them are good. Some of them I will use forever. But I want to expand my library. And like especially with processing, like compressors and stuff like that, I just want to buy plugins of like real things. I really want like an what's it called? I really want a mini Moog synth. Like I just want it's like you've heard it. It's like the most classic synth. It's on like every single Kesha, Katy Perry song. I think it was even on some 80s tracks. Like it's everywhere. So I want one of those. And I want some other gear, but like for the most part, I'm so content and happy with my studio setup. Like if no one bought me anything else for another 2 years, I would just be like, oh. Or if I didn't buy myself anything else for 2 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But shout out parents.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
It's our sponsors, parents.
Parents. But I'm just very content with
Yeah.
what I got.
What do plugins do?
Plugins emulate real. I'm literally looking for the word. Outboard. Outboard is the word I was looking for. Outboard gear, which is gear that isn't in your software, that is created. It like actually really changes the sound analog. If that makes sense. Like if you send sound through a processor instead of into your DAW, that's altering the actual analog sound.
Oh yeah.
Once it's in your DAW, it is something that can be changed as much as you want. It's not getting printed. It's not getting recorded. It's not. I hope I'm like saying this right because I actually don't. I've not dealt with much analog like stuff in my life. So
Nobody's gonna fact check me. They're just probably gonna get a few views.
okay. Well, plugins are just emulations.
Could you try again?
No, Siri, we weren't talking to you.
No, Siri. Literally shut up and die. No. It's emulations of real things that change the sound and in an analog domain instead of as like a digital file. Is kind of the easiest way to say it. So a compressor makes it so the waveforms, or not the waveforms, sorry, makes it so that the volume is more similar across the board instead of like, because there's variations, right? When you're singing. So it knocks down the highs and then it turns up the whole track, if that makes sense. The highest of the volume.
Oh.
So you can adjust essentially how much you want it to be compressed. And then if you overdo it, then you'll lose all the life in your recording. But if you underdo it, then sometimes there's spots where it's like it sticks out way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Or the singer moves away from the mic and you can't hear them. So all that to say, that's like one example of a plugin. They've recreated that on a software. So you can just do it on your computer instead of doing it in a studio.
Yeah.
It's made things way cheaper. You know, I looked up Katy Perry's compressor she uses on Teenage Dream because I saw a video of Dr. Luke going through her vocal chain. And I was like, I'd love to have one of those. It's only $38 online. I bet the real one is really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But as a plugin, it's much cheaper. So that's kind of what plugins do. They alter sounds.
Oh.
And sometimes they are sounds. Sometimes they're sound libraries that you can play through and mess with. Like Alchemy on Logic. That one's like one of my favorites. It's got like thousands of sounds, samples that you can put onto a MIDI keyboard and just adjust and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool. Do you think like there's anybody in the actual music space, like not producers but like full on artists that are like you kind of want to emulate? Like let's say like you wanted to be like the next, like sort of be like the next this person. Do you think there's anybody out there?
Yeah, I don't want to put myself in a box because I've learned that there's a lot of people with very strong feelings about pop music. Some people hate it, some people love it, some people are like they're too cool for it. Yeah. But I would say, as an artist, career trajectory wise, I admire Taylor Swift a lot. Because she is a hard worker. She's a billionaire and she continues to go out on tour. She's been on tour for over a year. It's probably going to end up being like a 3-ish year tour. 2.5 probably. Which is insane. And that, I don't know, it's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
And she's a billionaire. She doesn't need to be out there performing for 3.5, probably around there, hours for like 4 days in a row. Traveling the world doing this for her fans. Not to mention releasing albums along with the re-recordings. She released 30 new songs this year. That's insane for someone who doesn't need to be doing that. So you gotta love it to be able to keep doing it that long. But also Max Martin. He's like my absolute favorite producer. He's a genius writer. Like genius level. I would rate him in the same realm as like Mozart and Beethoven.
Really?
Like he's just up there. And people don't understand the complexity and how hard it is to make a good pop melody and to make it fit in a good song. Like you have to do these underlicks and you have to make sure that the production fits what you're going for. Like making a lot of things sound simple is really important. Most of your favorite songs have upwards of 200 tracks or more. And you have to make it sound like there's maybe 5 or 6 things going on at once and a few little effects. And so that's really tough. And I admire him for that. And I think his writing style is just so authentic to himself. And what he's done for the industry is incredible. So I want to, in an influential way, I want to be like him as a producer. And I want to work with other artists in the same capacity. Just make, I mean, he's got 25 or 26 number one hits, 70 in the top 10. So he's just very consistent at writing music that other people like. His taste is the world's taste. And so that's like, I want my taste to be what other people like. And I'm not changing my taste for other people. So they better start liking my taste.
Oh, no, that's great. I'm just thinking, I was thinking of doing like a thumbnail where it was like the new this person, and it's gonna be like a quote, like I'm gonna be the new this person.
No.
And-
No, don't make me replace him. I don't. No
no,
one can
no,
replace
no,
him.
no, no. And I was just gonna do a picture of you, and then it's just I'm gonna be the new Taylor Swift, and it's just a picture of you. That'd be so funny.
That would be awful.
As
You're
a,
never gonna put that online.
as a thumbnail. That'd be so great.
I would literally die.
Oh man. All right,
yeah.
I think
Oh.
that. Wait, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna also say Justin Bieber. He is
Yeah.
genius. His music's great. He's very, very consistent. Really, really talented and smart and taken advantage of. But incredible artist, and I would love to kind of be like him in some capacity as well.
Mm-hmm. That's what I can make a thumbnail about.
There
The
you go.
next
Look, that's what I was
Justin Bieber.
thinking. I was
That's
thinking-
kind of. I'm not gonna lie. That's kind of what I was hoping you were gonna say.
Well, I
Um,
think he's a Christian, and I really like. I think that that side of things is really cool. He's so open about his faith. People try to do these gotcha moments with him and get him to either renounce it or to say something that's going to stir up controversy, politically. But he's really good about just being honest.
Mhm.
And speaking about his faith. In a really non-harmful way. And I admire him for that. It's tough to dodge the media like that. Not to mention he's just incredibly talented. Music is in him. If you watched his movie, which I did when my parents somehow they took us to that movie when we were I think I was maybe 7 or something like that, maybe a little older. Watched his movie. He was have you seen Austin Rush?
I have not.
Oh, never mind. There's this little kid who bangs on the guitar and actually makes things sound good. He was doing that at 2 years old.
Huh.
And playing the drums. And if you've seen a video of him by ear conducting an orchestra and humming the notes for them to do.
I think I have seen
And
that one.
that's
That one's great.
that's just incredible. He's in music and he's built for music. And I would love to be like that too.
Yeah. Do you think because Justin it felt like he was a Christian, but then do you think it was just the media talking about oh, he's not really a Christian? Because I felt like I saw some stuff where it was just oh, now I'm not really sure if he ever really was, or if he left the faith, or I mean, I don't feel like I keep up with that enough.
He
but-
just reposted a church thing on his story.
Is that the thing where he was singing he was singing a worship song?
No.
I just saw
Maybe.
something of him where it was he was.
He did a worship concert, I think.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty cool. But he just reposted a thing of the church right before his baby announcement with Haley. So that no one knows anybody's heart for sure.
Yeah.
But the way I've seen him talk about it seems like he really understands it. He spent about 6 months away, trying to work on his faith. I think he went to not a boot camp, but something like that, church-based. I think it was with that pastor that cheated on his wife or something like that in the mega church and wherever. But you know what? I think he's in a really tough position. He's been surrounded by everything anti-Christian for years and years, and he's still proclaiming God. And I think the only thing that's a little confusing with him is substance use, and I think that's just been probably really hard to shake for a long time for him. I know he was trying to be sober. I know he still smokes weed. I think is some sort of a calming thing for him. I don't know, but that's the only thing that I'm a little bit confused by. But generally, I don't think it's you shouldn't judge someone for that kind of thing. You shouldn't be oh well, they're not a Christian just because they posted a smoking on their story or something like that. It's people will be people.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own issues.
Do you think there's anything you want to take from him in terms of how to navigate the pop music world and also your faith?
From him. Maybe, yeah. I think he's really, from everything I've heard, he's got very encouraging, positive interactions with people, and I think his willingness to spread the word and talk about it, but not make it not be annoying with it,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really interesting and really cool. I think there's also some things to learn what not to do from him as well, which I'm sure he'd agree with. Like he had a really rough past, not even close to entirely his fault, but he's had a lot to fight through to get to where he is now, I think. And so I think being careful about being pushed around and like self-medicating, all that kind of stuff is like stuff that I have to watch out for, and make sure I surround myself with the right kind of people too. I think that's really important. I think we're supposed to be in the world, not of the world, right? So make sure you've got a really strong foundation of believers around you at all times. That's something that I'm going to have to focus on because I've got some great friends that are all believers, which is really nice. But when I go into that industry, into that world, it's going to be a lot less of that. So I'm going to have to be really, really careful about where my priorities are.
Yeah. All right. I think we're gonna cut it right there. I think that's like an hour and 10-ish minutes. I really. Yeah. Yeah, just about an hour and 10. I think that's pretty good time. I really hope everything recorded right.
Me too. The mic was over here for like part of it, so
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's just the first one. I was gonna tell you to move it closer, but I probably should have told you to move it closer.
Just cut that out.
Yeah, I know. It'll be fine.
Like
You'll still like hear it.
You can also adjust the volume if you want on part of it.
That's why we have two different tracks, so I can adjust your volume and not mine.
Yeah, it's sweet.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I'm glad I had you as my first one because you can just talk for a long time. You're really good at that. You're really good at just like talking for.
Thanks,
a long
Luke.
time. That's great.
I think I might have rambled a little bit too much.
No, that's literally that's the whole point of the podcast is to ramble. I like hearing rambling. It's fun.
Thank you, Luke.
I like.
Your questions were really good.
Honestly, I hate this. I don't like that anymore. I don't like coming up those kind of questions. I like being able to hear what you say and then kind of respond to that kind of. It'd be good to at least think of some stuff in case I can't think of anything to like say off of what you said.
Yeah.
But I think
you're a good listener, and I'm not a good listener, so I'm glad we don't have the opposite roles.
This is why we're friends, Micah.
This is why we're friends.
I like listening. You like talking.
Actually, sometimes if you're talking about something that's interesting, I really like listening.
You do, yeah. I mean, and I also like talking at certain points, but like, we got that good back and forth, you know?
It's just like the hot tub.
Yeah, I know. This is like I should set up a podcast in the jacuzzi.
Oh, you should, Luke, but no jets because we don't.
No jets. But like,
I would be down. Second podcast
in the jacuzzi.
I'm so down.
Oh, it'd be so good.
That would be insane. When I come back to promote my first album.
Podcast in the jacuzzi. It'd be weird to get all the angles right and stuff, and everything. But if it worked, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Or it might be at Loma while I don't know.
Just bring it to like a hotel jacuzzi.
Bring it to what's it called that we always sneak into?
Unspecified. Unspecified.
Yep.
We don't sneak into hotels.
We actually don't sneak into hotels. We're big Christians.
Yes. We've never done that. That is totally illegal. We would never do that.
Yep. Sinners, those people.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's good. Thanks for watching. If anybody got to the end, see ya.